All right, I think we'll kick off if that's all right with you, Tas.
Yep.
Excellent. So good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where in the world you are. I think good morning, Rajesh from Mumbai. We've got 16 different countries on the webinar today. So welcome, everyone. I'm Chris Russell. I'm the MD of Argyle Scott in Thailand. And very pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Tas Chantree, who's based in Bangkok. I'm sure many of you in the HR community already know of Tas. So good morning, Tas.
Good morning, Chris.
Well, thanks for joining us. Tas is the founding partner of Tas Consulting Partners, which is a very highly well-respected and well-regarded consultancy and coaching firm here in Thailand. So for those of you outside of Thailand who may not be aware of Tas, prior to that he had 20 years experience working for various large MNCs and Thai listed companies both here and overseas before he set up his current consultancy firm. And I think to date he's now done this webinar for over 2,000 HR professionals, mainly in Bangkok, titled Reopening the Workplace and Reimagining HR over COVID-19. So having seen the response to the webinar, and I think you know the topic is very much transferable to any country, Tas put it together really to help and support the HR community in obviously what is pretty unprecedented times. And I think we can all agree the more collaboration, support and sharing of ideas during these times is only a positive thing. So before I pass over to Tas, we will record the session and that will be available to everyone, and we'll also send out the slide deck, which is text heavy, but that's to provide as much information as possible. We'll try and go for 45-50 minutes with 10 minutes of Q&A at the end if we have time. So if anyone does have any questions, please just put them in the chat function, and I'll try and field them at the end. But I'll pass over to you now, Chaz.
Yep. Thank you, Chris, and also thank Argyle Scott for having me today. Good morning, all participants. I think it's really a great privilege for me to share the topic with you today, which I normally share with the Thai HR community over the past month, because I think this is the unprecedented, and I think there is no playbook that we can play before. So I think it's about thinking the new way of coping with the urgencies and the plan ahead. That's what we need to do. So I will spend 45 minutes roughly to touch on two topics, which is what we need to consider, plan, and if we are going to reopen the workplace, what should be the best course of action that we can do for the company and for the employee. And as we know, COVID has redefined so many things in our life and at the company level, and how HR related process and practice will be redefined to cushion the change, which I will call it the interim normal. Many people call it the new normal or next normal, but I think from 100 things that we will be adjust today, probably half of them will be permanent, not all of them. So what we are going to do today is to cope with the interim normal. That is what the term that I borrow from some of the experts that they share. I have, like Chris mentioned, I have 80 pages of presentation deck, which is the text heavy, but don't worry, I will manage my talk within 45 minutes. You can download the document to the link that Argyle will provide to you after the session. It's a self-reading document. It's a self-explanatory. So even though I will touch only briefly on each page, you can read it, and I hope you can bring the idea and apply the idea to the situation that you are facing. And Chris, please jump in anytime that you think you want to share idea, and kindly help me list out the question from the audience who will bring up during the presentation. I understand that we have 10 or 15 minutes later on. So we start the presentation with this page. as I mentioned to you, that I have two part of presentation, but before I go into the presentation, there are one thing that I would like to share with you, which is the principle of the company, because at this time, each company has different situation that they are facing. Some have a deep pocket, they still have cash to manage, they can still manage the operation until the year end, but some they are running out of the cash. So especially for mid-size and small-size company in Thailand, probably they have about 1 to 3 months to run the operation if the revenue doesn't come. So I will give you some principle that companies should take into consideration before they plan or before they take an action, either for the short term or the long term. First, I would like to share, I borrow from Fit for Growth, the best-selling book from Pricewaterhouse. I think it will fit to what we are talking today. Though some of the company may benefit from the situation as their product is in high demand today, but I'm certain that 70% of the company are in the orange zone, which is at the bottom part. But whether you are on the struggle company or stress company, it depends on the strategy that you are choosing or you are opting for now. Both struggle company and stress company need to conserve the cash, as we know, and we look into the cost cutting opportunity. The difference between these two companies is that the stress company doesn't totally cut everything, but they will ensure that they will optimize the limit result. They will cut unnecessary thing and they still invest in the necessary or the capability that differentiate them from the competitor, that the stress company will do during the cost cutting or cash preserve. But struggling company, they will cut everything. So my key point here is that you cannot cut everything until you cut your leg, because once the opportunity comes, you don't have the capability to grab the market, because the market demand will come someday, sooner or later. So you need to cut with a good strategy and still keep investing in some area. That's the key message here that I want to convey, what would like to convey to the HR. And second principle is about the increasing importance of the intangible asset. Every business try to value their business to measure growth and the current performance, which in previous year, when you look back to 1975, the tangible asset is account more than 80% of the market values of the company. But passing by until now, the tangible asset reduced its importance to 17%, while 84% is the intangible asset. Intangible asset, we are talking about brand, a goodwill, a customer database, license, franchise, knowledge, trade secret. So even though we don't capture human brain into the balance sheet, but it's people who create this intangible asset. So still you need the intangible asset because it's the company competitive advantage. When you cut again, back to be strategic, cutting, not cutting the people who create the intangible asset. Otherwise, you don't have people who will help you to recover the business, and you don't have the people who help you to grow the business in the future. And the third principle that I would like to share is about employee experience. It become a buzzword that we heard every day in the last 2 or 3 years. Employee experience has been listed as the company priority for some time, especially for the talent-led economy, where the talent is a source of competitive advantage. However, while the company are rapidly reprioritizing its initiative for the time being to stabilize the financial challenge, the company could easily set employee experience aside as nice to have, which is fair enough. But you need to be careful, because what you are going to do today, it will become your identity in the future. either from employee eyes or from the customer eyes. So you need to think about employee experience and try to manage under the circumstance. Don't just leave it aside as a nice to have, because COVID, as we know, it's a once in a lifetime phenomenon. So it's the moment that matters to employee, how they will be treated, how you will treat their colleague, how you will treat society. That will set the tone for the company in the future. I think this is another thing that you need to think about when we redefine the HR, or when we are going to reprioritize HR activity. And I think related to what we just discussed, it's company culture that employees live every day, that will tell them how the company look like. I work with the client in the last 2 years. Many of them ask me to define the culture, and I say that I cannot define your culture, because the culture is the outcome of a combination of vision, system, values, and leadership behavior. So you need to have a clear vision. You need to have the right system, agile system that fit to your operating model. And you need to have a core values. You need to have leadership competency, and everything will work together and will create perception, everyday perception to the employee. That will be the culture of the company. So I think we need to be careful when we manage the culture and perception of the employee. So I think that's all the principle that I would like to highlight. Otherwise, when I share with you that company need to think about spot bonus, some of you might say that we are running out of cash and we don't have, surplus money to pay hazardous bonus for the employee who dedicate themselves to work while others work from home. But again, it affordability of the company, and you need to think about the employee experience. You need to think about company advantage when the time to recover will come. And when we talk about what HR need to do, if my HR colleague here, I would highlight that HR needs to keep abreast with the two graphs. The first graph, it's the green one. It's about the infection situation. You need to keep an eye on what the situation has been developed, whether we have the vaccine that really work for the people in the community, and whether it's going to be the next wave coming back after we resume the work. So we need to keep an eye on this, because it will guide us on our preventive transmission plans. And we also need to take the preventive measure moving forward. So this green line will suggest HR how to keep people safe, how to keep the workplace safe. That will lead to HR initiative and HR activities. But for the orange line, I think it really depends on the company that you belong. You need to understand the business performance, the P&L of the company. Some company, you are in the V-shaped form, which you can bounce back quickly because the demand will be back, and then you need to start operation at the peak level as soon as possible. But some company, your supply chain has been interrupted so much, so you will be in the L shape for so long. So the orange line will recommend HR in terms of how you can manage the workforce, how you're going to provide the flexibility for organization and for the employee that align with the business performance of the company. So this is two lines that HR need to keep an eye on. And we get into the first part, which is about reopening the office, which I think we have participants from different countries. The situation in different countries will be varied. In Thailand, I think even though the government will release the lockdown end of May, but I found people are getting back to their normal life slowly, and some company already start the operation. We found so many new practice, which I have never imagined before. When I go to department store, there are so many protocols, so many procedure steps that I need to follow. And I think that will happen in the workplace too. But the key word here is how we're gonna make the uncomfortable comfortable to the employee, because COVID-19 is forcing unprecedented social economy and the business response across the world. We have never experienced this before. It will dominate, influence the mindset of the people and the behavior of the new generation. Think about people who was born early of this year. In the next 10 or 15 years, there will be a generation that, you know, they are familiar with the social distancing, they are familiar with the isolation, they are familiar with the work from home. They cannot even imagine the life before pre-COVID. This is the new normal that we are talking about. But the new normal or next normal, as I mentioned, we should not jump into conclusion that everything will change now for permanent. We need to adjust the process just to cushion the interim permanent, and we will move forward. We will keep an eye on what will become the permanent. So my presentation is the first part. I think we need to understand the situation of the infection. Until now, I think no one knows for sure when COVID will be over and when we all can resume normal life like we used to. Now, especially country in Asia, where it seems the infection curve apparently controlled. We are also eager to go back to normal work. And Thailand has been taken a serious step, lockdown, to drive the reduction of the case, and the government imposed strict measurement to stop the spread of the virus. And the pressure from economic downturn coupled with the slowdowns of the case make the government start thinking about easing the lockdown measure gradually. And we will see the full stream of the office coming back starting from June. So why the easing measure being back and reignite the economy? But however, people, especially the authorities, still keep warning that not to let our guard down too soon. Otherwise, the second wave will emerge and it will impact. The degree of impact will be devastating, even more serious than the first wave. The truth is that COVID-19 is not over in a month. That HR need to keep in mind. Many people talk about 18 months or 24 months. So no matter what the safety control that we are going to implement, and if we are going to invest in setting up engineering level control, we probably need to do, because it won't fade away in 1 or 2 months. And we will talk about the hierarchies of the safety control later on. But when we go to the engineering control, there will be initial investment. But if we are thinking about 2 years, the investment will pay off. So you probably might need to change the floor plan. You need to rearrange the furniture, the layout, or you need to improve the ventilation of the air. That's what I mean in terms of the scenarios of the COVID that will be with us for long term. I can skip this because you are aware that COVID-19 has an impact on the trade zone across the economy, no matter you are poor or rich country. Especially in Thailand, we are heavily affected because our economy depends on tourists and export. I read the article. They say that in Asia, the economic growth will be better than other regions, except Japan. But I think for Thailand, we will be lag behind, because as I mentioned, that our economy depends on the tourism, hospitalities, and the export. I don't people will feel safe to travel again in next 1 or probably 1.5 years. And then during 1.5 years, hospitality business, tourist related business, they need to think about how they're gonna change the business model, how they will, shift from foreign tourists to domestic tourists. That's something that people in the company need to do. And in terms of the job loss, people said that the first quarter it's a serious problem, but the second quarter will be even more serious. So that HR need to start to think about how we can keep people, while we can manage the business sustainability, how we can go other option rather than lay off. That's something that we need to think about, and I will touch on that during the second part of presentation. And again, the COVID is unprecedented reality. There are so many evidence that I can show you, but I picked this one from United Nations. Every year they will have the Human Development Index ranking, and the Human Development Index ranking is reflecting the combination of the world education, health, and living of the people. And since they start the index ranking in 1990 or 30 years ago, none of the year that the index has declined. But this year, you see the graph on the red bar, it will be the first year that the index will be declined to the minus in the huge portion from the zero. So this is the magnitude of the impact that COVID has on our life, not just only the business, but education of the kid and standard of living of the people. So what is the challenge for the HR today? I take this survey from Bain and the company. They take United States as the sampling, and they ask people, what is your concern? Whether you're concerned about infection or whether you're concerned about economy. And you see the yellow, the orange line. The concern about infection is lower than the concern about economy. They are concerned about losing financial income. They are concerned about, they don't have time for mortgage and so on. So even though people are still worried about the health concern, but they also worry about their pocket. They don't have money to work. And as you can see that the job security and personal health is the top of employee mind today. That's something HR need to manage. The question is, when we are going to reopen the office, when we will be ready, what the criteria that can tell us that you are ready to open now, and what to prepare, and who will return to the office. And I think you can answer the question. If you can answer 3 questions, you can understand whether your company are ready now. First of all, when to return. When to return is whether or not you have this full plan in place. First, whether you have business continuity plan. Of course, you have business continuity plan because it's already 2 months. You already, implement some measurement to cope with the situation. But whether you update the business continuity plan, as I mentioned, that there is no playbook for you. So the business continuity plan that you implement 1 month or 2 months earlier, probably it's the business continuity plan for other disaster or other urgency. But now we understand that what situation is, what the nature of the COVID is, what the infection look like. So now probably you need to adjust the business continuity plan and to make it ready. Why you need to have business continuity plan once you go back to work? Because we go back to the graph that the COVID will be with us for 18 to 24 months. So we need to have the plan to re-exit the workplace anytime. It could be second wave, it could be third wave, it could be a bigger wave than the previous wave. So business continuity plan needs to be updated and valid. And second plan, whether you update the workplace safety. The key point here is that once you have people coming back to the office, you need to be able to answer, and everyone who involved in the office should be clear that once people feel sick when they left home and then they commute, they feel sick during the way, and once you arrive at the office, what you're going to handle them. And if people still need to do self-quarantine, whether they get paid or not paid. So you need to have this process in place. Don't let people think or presume or understand, because otherwise it's going to be, confusion all over. Supervisor, employee, HR, COVID team need to have the practice on the same language. So you need to have business continuity plan, you need to have workplace safety plan, and you need to be clear on how you are going to handle employee relation. There might be someone who are hesitant to come back to work because they might feel that the neighbor company not open yet, and still there are some cases infected in the area that company building is located. So it doesn't mean that they worry about their own health, but they also worry about the kid at home, the parents, the adult or senior citizen who are living at home. And they probably will be the only worker who take money back home and take care of all the family. And if they got affected, what will be the well-being of the family? So you need to be clear on how to handle if the employee are hesitant or if the employee feel unsafe when they are come back home. So you need to have this pre-plan in place, including the monitoring process, because once you have the monitoring system, and then it gives you the signal that the second wave will come. So what will be communicated to the employee, and then you go back to the exit plan again. So before you open the workplace, you need to have this full plan in place. And second question, who come first? You need to start bringing people back in phase. I think that's what people repeat, because you don't know yet what you are facing when you bring people back, and then bring only the highly essential group first, or you need to set the criteria to control the density. If you control the density at the 50% of the normal office utilization, who will be working in the office during the day. So you still need to have some people work from home, and probably you still need to have a team that come on the alternative day. And what required in the new workplace, I will touch on that. So I put this into the procedural that you can follow. The first one, you just follow that whether your company has full plan that I mentioned in place, and whether the authority, government authority or local authority now already allow you to open the workplace. So you need to be compliant with the measure of the government and the local authority, and then you check your full plan. If any of them not in place, you keep lockdown continue, because you are not ready to open yet. And if all the box ticks, you move to the middle box, which is whether you have the plan to keep the work that people feel safe. It's not the work that you feel safe, your employee feels safe. So you need to have the administrative control, you need to have engineering control, you need to have PPE, and probably you need to go to the elimination and substitution level of the control, which I can touch a bit later. And for the yellow one, if any of them is not ticked yet, you go back and then you make it all tick. Then you move to the last part, which is monitoring system. Whether you have the monitoring system, whether you have the safety communication that you can inform employee on real time what they need to do. So this is the checklist that you can follow. I think the most important one will be on the left-hand side, this one. Because if you are not tick all the box, you cannot open the workplace. I think this help you. And I think one of the tools that I recommend to the HR community here I think you can also use it, is the employee journey mapping, because we are talking about employee experience. Instead of doing what we think it needs to be done, it will be better if we will prepare the thing that people really want and care about. So you can use this template. I think this template, I mock it up for the employee who are going to be back to the work, and then we separate the phase of timing from the day during the work from home until the first 20 days that they back to the office. So we list down the concern that people has in the different phase, and then we put down the activity that company need to do. So it starts from during work from home, they need to check company announcement. When they come back, they need to attend town hall, they need to review annual objective. So it lists down everything that employee need to do during the first 21st day. And doing this activity, what will be the touch point that employee need to contact. So if you can improve the quality of the touch point, which could be from supervisor, could be from the ERP system, could be from the management, self-management, employee self-service and management self-service system, the HR service system, you can improve those touch points to make it customized, personalized, and relevant to the situation, not just leave all the content as it is since before the COVID start. So if you can improve the touch point, including supervisor skill, that also can improve the experience of the employee. And once you have employee that they commit to the company, no matter how hard the company will be in what situation, they will really commit and help company to go along. So I think you can use this and then adjust to fit your company circumstance, and then you can improve the touch point that employee will interface. So I think this I already mentioned, you need to think about the experience of employee, not just only within the workplace, but think about the moment that they are going to leave their home door to entering to the office door. So you might need to send the PPE, which I believe that many companies already did that, but you might send the new set that will be sufficient to use for a month, and probably you can provide the PPE to to the family member too. And I think people will leave the home, they might to have a peace of mind that my shift work will be safe. So if you can inform them that your shift work has been rearranged into modular, a small modular group, or you have spare time during the shift work to clean the workplace, people will leave the home with the peace of mind. I think that you need to think about. It depends on what nature of operation or nature of the business you are doing. And during commuting, if you have a full flexibility, so people can avoid the peak time. They can come to the office at the noon, and then they can probably work at the shorter period of time, but maintain the productivity. So I don't want to go into the detail because it's a self-reading document. You can read it, but the key point is that try to understand what is their concern, what is the touch point that they will interact with each activity, and think about the time before they leave the home until they arrive the office, and then they go back home again. This is the hierarchy of safety control. I think I recommend that HR need to understand what levels of hierarchy of control that we have. We normally have 5 levels, but the first level with the quick win, it's less effective, but ease of implementation. You need to provide PPE, and then you set the policy, you educate employee on how to act with responsible manner, how to do the social distancing at work, and you can go up to engineering control, which you need to, remodify or establish the equipment or the work plan. So that's the most effective one, but it will come with the cost. But as I mentioned, that COVID will be with us for 2 years. So probably if you calculate the return, and you might, I believe that you can find a way to convince management that probably you need to equip some engineering control, especially for the customer interface. At least you need to have the plastic shield to protect them while they are interfacing with the customer, or you can do the voice control for the elevator. Some engineering control doesn't need a cost. You can do easily, like when you keep all the door in the office open, you don't need to have automatic machine to control them. You just, just keep it open, use this thing or whatever. So you need to do that up to the engineering control. This is the office look like. I think many people talk about the one-way corridor and less density of the workplace, but I will encourage you to think about a small thing, like personal item. People, I don't know for other country, but in Thailand, people like to have their photo, their, a lot of stuff on their desk. It's not easy to clean the desk with so many personal items. So HR need to think about a small little thing that you need to announce the guideline that people are willing to follow. At this time, I think people are willing to follow whatever you recommend them, as long as they feel that this measurement make them safe. So think about a little thing that you need to prepare the office that they can feel safe. I have the template in case that you want to use. So the template start with the question. You need to categorize your employee into the group. Mainly that will be customer interface, office group, warehouse group, manufacturing group. And then you ask this question. You have a panel of OS&S expert, HR expert, process engineer, and people who are involved or who understand the nature of work involved in the committee. And then you have a group of customer interface. You ask this question, and that will lead to the overall risk factor. It will look like this. For the customer interface, overall risk is high because they need to, contact customer or the people who come to the office nearby, and they need to interact with the machine, a lot of things. So this will give you the overall high risk of customer interface person. And then once you have the overall risk assessment, you can use the hierarchy of safety control to manage or to prevent them from the exposure to the infection. So if you look like this, you will have this column for the overall risk assessment, and then this is measurement based on the risk assessment that you evaluate. So I have this from Ben, and I think it pretty makes sense. So you can use it. This is the office worker. I also have one for the customer interface. I have one for manufacturing, and I have one for the warehouse. So you can use this template, and then you can adjust to fit into the business context and operational model. I have about 6 minutes. I will touch on the thing of each page, and then you can read it yourself. So this 2 page is the policy that you need to have a look, because this is the unprecedented time. You need to think about what you are going to do with the salary increase. If you are due to pay them the salary increase next month or bonus payment next month, whether you can defer them. And if you defer them, once the situation are back and company resume the normal operation, how you're going to pay them back? You're going to pay them back with the interest, or you're going to pay them back with what special portion on top. So it depends on the deep of the pocket, as I mentioned. So you need to review the salary increase, bonus increase. Some company also allow employee to reimburse the extra expense that incur during the work from home, like office supply or cell phone service and so on. One thing I would like to share with you is about the paid off time. It's a vacation. I think during this period, people don't feel like to take the vacation, but they might take the day off for taking care of the family and the kid. But most of the company, they have carryover policy. So what you are going to do with the carryover policy, whether you will extend the period of carryover or some company go further, like you can donate your pay off, paid day off to other who need, someone who need to take care of the kid who their school closed and then to stay home, and you have so many pay off vacation day, you can donate to them. But there might be some detail, like you are at the lower ranking level, the day rate are cheaper than higher position, how you gonna manage this kind of thing. But think about the paid off policy, because it would be the impact. And for the annual bonus, I don't know for other countries, but in Thailand, many companies are still binding the absent with as a criteria to pay the bonus. But as you know, that this year absent doesn't mean that people are not being disciplined, but they need to be absent from work for quarantine, for taking care of the family. How you can bundle this for this year, how you can think about the flexibility that you can provide to the employee. This is something that HR need to think about. And once the employee come back, one of the questions will be asked to the HR is, what is my goal? What is my KPI? What is my OKR? So we need to have a clear answer or clear process that employee and supervisor know what to do. Either you're gonna allow them to change now or to take some initiative related to COVID and put into the KPI or to the OKR. So whatever you plan, it depends on the business need and business context of your company, but you need to have the answer for the employee. And for sport bonus, I think people who dedicate and they sacrifice themselves to work while others work from home, I think they should be recognized. And some company, they are concerned about, you might give them an extra for 3 months, and then once you take them out, they might have a negative impression, or people might expect this every year. So many companies, they might apply the same concept, but they call them differently. Some company, they call them a hero bonus. Some company, they call them a thank you bonus or appreciation bonus. So I think the approach can be flexible, but the concept is that you need to recognize people who dedicate themselves during the crisis. That the key practice that you need to review. And communication, I think briefly, you need to centralize because so many misinformation all around the place. So you need to centralize the content, and you need to make the content relevant to the employee. You need to have a semi-fixed schedule, because people understand that every Wednesday morning there will be company announcement on whatever. So they are overwhelmed already with so many things. Don't just make their life more difficult. I quite disagree with go with the over communicating, because as I mentioned, life is already overwhelmed. Manage the communication in a structured way and control and centralize. But I'm talking about centralize the content, but to distribute the content, the line manager should be the one who distribute. Company provide them the content, but how to say, you need to train them. I think this is the communication in brief that I need to suggest you. So I think that how you need to prepare for the reopening. I don't have much time to go into the HR process, but I can touch on what the page is talking about, and then you can read it. So for reimagining HR process, I think when I prepared the presentation for the Thai HR community, and I found that I don't have a new thing to share with them. In fact, I have been sharing with them for 2 years already. Someone said that the COVID just accelerate what the company going to be there in the next 5 to 10 years, but it accelerated the time for the company to get into the digital era faster. If you look at this digital literacy, we talk about that for so many times, so many years, and whether you have a solid plan to address that adaptive learning ecosystem, whether you still do the learning need survey in the traditional way, whether you still design the training learning model in the traditional way, actually you should go to adaptive learning ecosystem when people, they can pick and choose the way of learning that fit to the need and fit to their preference. Remote workforce, smart workplace, this kind of thing is already, something we talk about it for 2 years, but we are in the comfort zone and we hesitant to go into the learning zone. So COVID pushed us get out of the comfort zone. So it's nothing new here. It's already HR in digital economy. What we are talking about is, for example, I touch upon here, HR needs to understand how to do the scenario-based workforce planning. Many companies here still do the workforce planning as part of the financial or budgeting planning exercise, which is incremental 5% and so on. So you need to start doing workforce planning based on the scenario that company are facing. And the key thing here is you need to understand total cost of workforce. I have a list of total cost of workforce that you can, slot the types of employment or types of employee, and then you can see the total cost. Because when you say that, take out 10 people of this group and 10 people of other group, they will cost the company, they will have the cost impact to the company on different level. So I think you need to have scenario-based planning, and you need to understand that each scenario, what is the cost that attached to each types of employee that you are working on. And there are so many options before you go down to the layoff, as I mentioned. So you go from the top list, and then the degree and impact to the employee will be getting more serious at the bottom of the list. And I think this is quite important page, because some of the initiative that we took, it doesn't help much in terms of the cash impact, but it's already severely impact on the employee commitment. So we can learn from the last recession. This is from BCG. So they put down on the left-hand side the initiative that HR took during the 2008 Great Recession, and each initiative, how much it affect, and in terms of the cash management, and how much it impact on the employee commitment. Some initiative, it only yield marginal cash impact, but it damage a lot on the employee commitment. So you need to learn from the last recession and just very well consider it before you start to implement anything. HR budget will be very tight, so you need to make sure that you spend well. You need to go back to service delivery model, how you can optimize the HR headcount. HR needs to be agile. You need to have people who have the main responsibility at each function at the minimum level, but you're gonna have a pool HR who can work on the different types of assignment. We are talking about the agile work approach, but HR need to adopt that. We don't need to go with the lean, with the Kanban and procedural thing, but at least we need to have a mindset and be agile to handle different assignment. You need to ensure that HR spending on the HR system will yield the return as we promised. You implement the HRIS system, but people don't use in the previous time, but now you don't have headcount, you don't have new budget. You need to make sure that people really use the system and it gives you the return that you promised to the board. and then you can go down to the personal cost that impact other. So I think I will leave the other at the self-reading document because I just running over time for 5 minutes. Oh, I will touch upon the recruitment a bit. I think for recruitment during this time, first of all, I believe that there are not so many cases that you already agree on the contract. I believe that not so many cases. So think about the reputation or relation that we have with the professional association. We build that over time. We build that with the the campus, the university, professional institute, but it can break you just one day if you just tell the candidate that we will not count on the contract that we agree with you because of the COVID. You can do so, but probably you can discuss with the candidate and then you can defer the starting date during this time. I believe the candidate understand the situation instead of you going to tell them that we will not count on the contract that we agree. We still count that, but we defer starting date in 2 months, 3 months. I think that's something that HR needs to consider. And HR need to keep the candidate informed of the process. Don't let them call you and then ask you that when the process, where is the next step of the process. I think people are now understand that company focus on bring back the business to the the normal operation. So the new headcount and recruitment process will not be the priority, but you can do the proactive move by calling the candidate, telling them that where the status of the recruitment is and when the next step will be. It's going to be next month or next 2 months, but people understand when the timeline will be. I think that the now, as I mentioned, recruitment need to do. But for the later, I think we need to adopt marketing technique, either push and pull marketing to ensure that we build a strong brand, because the numbers of the talent in the market will be less and less, and they will go for the freelancing or they will have their own business. So the demand is shrinking and supply is still the same. So we need to make sure that your company is someone that people are looking when they are searching for the job. So the rest, I think, is the self document. I go back to you, Chris.
Great, thank you, Tas. And I think there's probably another couple of hours we could have done on in reimagining the new HR function, and maybe we can look at a part 2 in a month or so when many of us are back at work or in the offices. Just a couple of questions. Then I think we've got time. One of them was you obviously mentioned lots of different requirements to look at before we return to work. Do you believe that should be the same for smaller organizations as well, say less than 20 people?
I think if we go back to the checklist, I think the checklist will be valid for all the size, and the smaller number will be easier for you. So you need to I think the practice could be flexible, but the checklist will be the same, because you need to make, even though you have 20 people, you still need to make people feel safe when they come. I think the smaller will be easier for the company to manage.
Thank you. And then someone else has asked, are there any real life examples you've seen yet in Thailand or any other countries that have successfully implemented returning to work? I know it might be a bit early for that.
I think, as we said, that there is no complete playbook. So there might be one practice from here and one practice from there. So I think I saw, but first of all, I think many big MNC and corporates still work from home. So some of the companies start working now. I will put together the good example from each place, and then I can share with you in the presentation when you distribute.
Excellent. Okay. And I think that was the main 2 at the moment. So I think just conscious of timing. So certainly, again, thank you very much for your time, Tas. I think there's plenty more to talk about. And as I said, maybe we look to do a part 2 in a month or so. Good luck to everyone, certainly as you slowly return to work. And I think Tas has kindly made his contact details available that we'll distribute if people have any further questions. And as I said at the start, we'll send the recording out as well as the full slide deck as well. So thank you very much, Tas, again, once again, and thank you very much for everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for everyone for participating.